Welcome to Black Men Speak. It's a podcast that highlights ordinary Black men doing extraordinary things. I'm your host, Keith Dent, and I know you've probably been wondering, you hadn't seen me in a while, um, but it's great to be back. It's not always about uh, quantity, but it's about quality, and I want to always bring you quality guests. And when we have stuff to talk about, and today we definitely have something to talk about. Because we're going to be speaking with Jay Dillard, and he's a sought-after barber, entrepreneur, and author. And so we're just going to really talk about his journey. He has a um, JD the Barber, Kid Barber series that I thought was just fascinating. And what's great about it is that it basically highlights, I guess you say the niches for middle school boys, young boys. And it helps them maybe think about being passionate about what they want to do in life. We know a lot of times, there's this thing out there that Black boys don't really read as much, or if we want to look at data, it's kind of, they may be lower on the scale in regards to reading. And when they do read, some of the characters that are out there are really focused on the entertainers, the athletes, which there's no problem with that if they are reading those and kind of getting a taste. But we need more well-rounded and more variety in our books. And this is a great book, I think, that will be beneficial. So I can't wait to talk to him because, he turned a bullying incident into triumph. And so I want everybody to hear, his story and how he was able to do that. And so, JD, welcome to the show.
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
Um, so yeah. So let's see. You live in Meridian, or you grew up in Meridian, Mississippi. Is that right? Did I get that right?
Yes, I was technically born in a city called Vicksburg.
Vicksburg. Okay, I've heard of Vicksburg.
Yeah,
I think from Civil War days.
that is correct.
The Battle of Vicksburg.
Yeah, Vicksburg, but in all retrospect, it was really called the Vicksburg Massacre. But over history, we have a tendency of cleaning things up.
Yeah. Of course. But kudos to even remembering that, because you can only read, they probably don't even have the Battle of Vicksburg in books today, but which is crazy in itself. But that's a whole nother topic. But you were born in Vicksburg, but you grew up in Meridian. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay. And what was Meridian like back then? That was probably in the 80s, right? 80s and 90s.
That's correct. So, quick history lesson: I was born in a city called Vicksburg, and from that point, I moved to Jackson for a year. Then I was raised in New Orleans. Then, after my aunt, suffered a seizure giving birth, my mother asked me to come back to Mississippi, and I went to Meridian. So that's kind of like a little backstory. But to answer your question, for some who don't know, Meridian is the fourth largest city in the state of Mississippi.
Oh wow! Okay, no, wow, okay.
It's the east of the Mississippi, and we're currently 15 minutes away from the Alabama state line. And there's only one high school there. So, and going between Louisiana and Alabama, Georgia, you almost had to pass through Meridian.
Okay, and one of my guess who's listening, Meridian is David Ruffin territory. So I guess we got some educated listeners on tonight.
Ruffin is one of them, and Derek McKee, who went pro, played for the Supersonics from Meridian.
Okay.
Another hip hop artist, Big Crit, who signed to Def Jam Records, who live in Atlanta. He's from Meridian, including myself.
Okay, all right. You're among some celebs. All right, that's fantastic.
Absolutely.
Okay, so then we're gonna kind of go back to 1999. So when it all started. So your mom was cutting your hair, and we know how moms are. Got to get you ready for school, and if it's a choice between maybe getting school supplies or what have you, and they're gonna find a way to save something so they can make sure you're all good. But maybe the clothes wise, but you said, okay, I can cut your hair. So decided to do that. I don't know if it was the first day, but probably pretty close. And so it went horribly wrong. So one of the questions I thought, well, what was wrong of it? Was it the hairline, or was it the side? What was it that really looked bad?
That's a great question. So the book is based off true events, and my mother did cut my hair the day prior to I had to go to school. Growing up, you had kind of had like hand-me-downs type, but my grandparents, and them being the matriarch of the home at that time, they would take us out to go get clothes. But to get back to your question dealing with the haircut, my mother wanted to save money and spend quality time with me and my baby brother at the time. So needless to say, she just gave me an even all over. But it was the edge up you did ask about that it kind of like, catapult the whole situation. So my mother gave me a very feminine edge, which is just basically like a circle
Oh, okay.
up, which is a very what's the word I'm looking for? It's a popular shape up for feminine women, especially with the pixie cuts and so forth. And I just think she kind of followed or just modeled behind that when edging up her me at the
Okay.
time. And you know, it was traumatizing.
I'm sure. So I guess that's safe to say you remember some of the names that you recalled. And I'm not trying to trigger you, as a trauma moment, but what were some of those things that you did hear?
Oh man, I didn't think it was more so some of the terms, but it was just more so like, look at you, it was biscuit head or somebody effed up your shape up.
Mm,
Who cut your hair? Let me go slap the barber who did it. It was just us kids growing up. It was just very ruthless in terms of the things we used to say to get up under people's skin or
right.
just to turn around and laugh and they giggle out of it. But needless to say, it was a very, very rough 2 weeks because when I was growing up, by the time you hit the building, if you had on a hat, do rag, anything of that nature, it had to come off. Comparing in today's time, you can go in
Right.
with a scully, whatever. I wish I had that opportunity then, but in the time when I was coming up, no, that wasn't going down. So
Right. You don't
I had
think about that because you couldn't. There was hoodies. I mean, you didn't really wear hoodies. You had a locker. You couldn't just wear them around school because back then it wasn't the popular, and then hats and all those kinds of stuff was not allowed in school. So yeah, I'm
true,
sure I'm sure it was a rough 2 weeks. Rough 2 weeks.
very
Um,
rough.
but one of the things that which I thought was quite fascinating is that you turned and I you turn that negative experience into a kind of your passion. So I'd love to hear how you did that because usually, oftentimes, when there is some negative experience, we'll try to run away from it as much as possible. So I'd love to hear how you were able to do that.
Yeah, that's another great question. You have some great questions, Keith. So that experience and being traumatized and being teased and bullied during that particular time, I told myself right then that I would never allow that to happen. I would never allow myself to be embarrassed, especially with something that wasn't within my control. But at some point, I wanted to have a sense of control moving forward in terms of situations. So, with that being said, when it was time for me to get another haircut, um, I took my mother's clippers and I just basically locked myself in the bathroom. And let me kind of give you set the scene real quick for your audience. When I was coming up, guys, we didn't have social media, we didn't have the internet, we didn't have hair cutting charts, we didn't have pictures and things of that nature. It was none of that when I was coming up in Mississippi. So I want to make sure I set the scene. So now
Right? We
that the
didn't, and
scene
you
is
didn't have the black ink either. That wouldn't have didn't have that.
enhancements, that's absolutely correct. None of that was available to us during the time when all this was happening during my time period. So I went into the bathroom and I just know that it came with four different guards, a pair of oysters, corded, sticking into the wall, and I had four different guards. And remind you, it wasn't different levels on the side of the neck. It was just one, and you had to put different cutting guards on it. So
Right.
I just remember, you know, I, 1/16, then you have a half, then you have 1/8, then you had a full one, then you have 1.5, a two, and three and four guard. So I just took the one and I took a deep breath. And mind you, I didn't know anything about cutting capes or any of this stuff. So I just took an old bedspread and I basically wrapped it around, what I'm saying, my neck.
Right.
And I just took the clipper and we had what we didn't have a mirror. We had what you call a medicine cabinet,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, cabinet. Or some people say, then I had what you call a vanity mirror, which is a very small and it was feminine. Usually women would have it. And that's what I did. I went in the direction that my hair was laying down. And I just know going from the crown of my head where I felt a little part and from brushing and combing. And I just kind of went forward that way. And once I got done, I took everything off and looked at it and I thought it was presentable. I walked out the bathroom and that's kind of how my career started because, shortly after that, my mother didn't know I cut my hair and she said, "You went to the barbershop? Where you get money from to get your hair cut?" And no, I was nervous because she didn't know that I took her clippers.
Right.
Once I got all that down and got the nervousness out, I just looked her in the eye. I told her that I did it and she still couldn't believe that. And then I showed her, I said, "Look, this is what I did. I went with the grain of where my hair was laying because I was afraid if I went in the opposite direction, I would have bald my head." So from that point on, my mom looked, she said, and she went on about her business. And then from that point, I felt so prideful that even though she didn't say, "I'm proud of you," she just kind of gave me that sense of gesture that, okay, you know what I'm saying? And from that point, that's kind of like how, my career started.
Yeah. Did all right. So, and then did she know? And I know I'm going back, but did she know you had been bullied before, or did you kind of keep that to yourself?
No, I can't speak for anybody else, but you're a kid and being teased and stuff like that, that was kind of like the norm. We didn't look at it as abusive or whatever the case. That's just, what it was. It didn't matter what your race, ethnicity, boy or girl, black or white. It was just, our way of communicating per se,
Right.
so like it was anything while I was getting, punched and beat up. It was just a lot of, slang, certain profanity. Some were back in the day. I don't know if you remember, they used to slap the back of your head.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had instances that they kind of happen, and to be honest with you, it was some triggers, because I really wasn't that type of person who enjoyed that, but at the same time, I never wanted to embarrass my family. I never wanted my mother to come to school to discipline me
Right.
based on that could have been controlled. So, and that was
Right. Because
completely
I
out of my.
mean, right. Because technically, they were not only were they talking about your haircut, but also kind of indirectly your mom's because she was the one that cut your hair. So it's like, okay,
This. So if it was a nice haircut, well, the haircut wasn't that bad, but it was the edge up.
yeah,
So if it was fine, I would have got compliments. Then absolutely, I would have been cheering my mom on the whole time. But very few and far in between actually knew who did it. Because number one, I was embarrassed because sometimes they think you don't have enough money to go to the barbershop, and
hmm
in that case, my mother wanted to save money and spend quality time, with her sons, however long it took her to cut our hair. And I was appreciative of that because they gave me
right,
opportunity with my mother because, my mom was cool.
right. Awesome. And so you kept doing that. I know. I wondered, did word get around that you had skills and you started cutting other people's heads?
Over time, yes, it didn't happen right away because
Hmm.
it's one thing to get a bad haircut. It's another thing to come back to school with a decent haircut. And all of a sudden you telling people that you did it. Because, amongst my peers, we're kind of like, I have to see it to believe it type. It's
Okay.
unfortunate, but it's true. Unlike other people, you just pretty much tell them exactly this was transpired and boom, this what it is. But absolutely. So it took a little minute. But I was very fortunate. I had a little brother, who's my guinea pig. And I had a chance to like butcher him for several years. So now, he's a grown man with dreads and he would never let me touch his hair again.
I mean, and then back then the barbershop was kind of the place to go. I mean, it still is for a lot of brothers. So I'm sure that that hangout. It's kind of tough. It's for just like for women. When you find your hairdresser, you have to move heaven and earth to switch. So I'm sure it also goes the same way for your barbers, for men as well.
That is correct. It's a cornerstone of a lot of neighborhoods and a lot of cities. And whenever I do speak to people like yourself and other educators, I always express to people that a barbershop or hair salon is basically really your first social media outlet. You came there for your gossip. If you need to get hooked up on something, you came there for there. You have all the different conversations about church to religion to politics to sports to who's talking to who or who's married to who or who's hanging out with who. You got all that type of camaraderie, from the checkers to the spades to, the dice game in the bag. It depends on where you at. A lot of stuff and transactions came through the barbershop. And man, it was just a cornerstone of Meridian. And I was very grateful that I had the opportunity, what I'm saying, to actually go through some barbershops, growing up and kind of mirror my career behind some things I've experienced.
Yeah. And so at 22, you go to Tuskegee. Uh, and you decided to also at the time start a business. Um, and so what was the catalyst behind that? That would be my first question. And then that would be one. And then two, how were you able to kind of manage the college experience with also being a business owner?
Gotcha. Great question. So to back up a little bit, I was at Tuskegee already prior to 22 years old. So I got a football scholarship.
Okay.
That's what
Okay.
got me out of Meridian.
Oh,
And
wow. Okay.
yeah, I knew that. I told my mother that young. I said I wouldn't get a scholarship and go pro and do all this cool things. She'll never have to pay for school. So, but I got to Tuskegee and I had emergency surgery. I had appendix that burst and I caught an infection in spring of
Mm,
'97. And I was basically pronounced dead because I was walking around with it for roughly like 2 weeks, didn't know what was going on until I went to the doctor on campus and he told me I had to have surgery. And I'm like, I'm a football jock. I'm like, ain't nobody cutting on me. I ain't never had surgery a day in my life. So I walked out of the office and I collapsed. That was at 9:30, about 1:45 p.m. I was in East Alabama Medical Center in Opelika, Alabama, on the other side of Auburn. And I was in surgery. So, and my mother and them have to travel down from Mississippi. But anyway, that being said, that was an experience that kept me in the hospital for 6 weeks.
mm,
And I knew I recovered from everything. I wasn't going to play football again, and my life changed, like a
wow.
second. So, except doing what we consider like a 360, I basically did like a 180 or I kind of pivot a little bit. Um, I knew I never wanted to be looked upon as a college dropout because Tuskegee it's a private funded school, and the tuition was up there. So by me not playing football no more, I no longer have my scholarship. So now in order to stay in school, you have to get grants, pay out of pocket to get loans. So I didn't want to take out major loans because I didn't want to be responsible for all that money. So I just remember I had this gift of cutting hair. And I was dating a young lady in college at the time. And what was so dope about it, she was my first investor. So she took her rent money for the following month and she gifted to me.
Mm,
Well,
mhm,
gifted to me. I had to get back. So she gave me her rent money for the following month. And I took that money and I secured a building which was 3 blocks down from Tuskegee University campus. And I opened up my first barbershop. And I kept that barbershop for 18 to 19 years. And it was called University Barbershop 1881, and that was the year Tuskegee was erected, July 4th. And what I did was completely different. I was doing $7 haircuts at the time, and doing homecoming or special events, I would go from $7 haircuts to what I considered higher rates based on special events because other people was coming in town. And before people get in all the uproar why my haircuts are so affordable, it's very simple. I felt I was ahead of the curve because I understood my demographics. Macon County, where Tuskegee set in, was the
mm,
poorest county in the southeast region at that time. So understanding that the average raise coming through that was $18,000 a year, I have to turn around and set my base based on what was actually coming through locally, not including college students. So my rent was only 400, and I had 1,800 square feet. That's how amazing that was at that particular
mm,
time.
mhm.
being in Alabama, you didn't need barber's license during the time I first opened up my shop. Only thing I needed at that particular time was renter's insurance and liability insurance. So I secured both of those, got them approved, and then from that point, my shop was up and running. And I really didn't have any competition. If you had local barber shops there. And reason being, I had a blueprint that was always in my mind. I used to cut hair in the dorms, like a lot of people did then, and probably still doing to
Yeah.
this day.
Yeah.
So what I did was to alleviate all my competition. Every female and male that I knew that was cutting hair in the dorm, I went in and I approached them. Or if somebody knew I had a relationship with them, I told them come have a conversation with me. So I took all of my competition out of the dorms and put them in the shop with me. I gave them 30 days of free booth rent. And then from that point, I would never charge them booth rent during holiday season if they have to go home for Thanksgiving or Christmas. Once that
Oh wow,
happened, the
that,
shop took off.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
So just for as a for context, what was the average amount that someone could get for a haircut back then? Because you said you were charging $7, which I would assume it was like the '90s probably. And I'm thinking, and I'm over the top of my head that the average might have been what, $10, I guess.
Nah, we talking about it was one barbershop there, legendary gentleman by the name of Bray's Barbershop. And he won all kind of trophies and medals for playing professional checkers. And he would come in and actually do $3 haircuts until the day he died.
Mm,
$3 haircut, walk out with a pocket full of money. But needless to say, he was a speed barber. So he'll come in, give you a basic even all over, edge you up without a razor, no hot towel, no lather, nothing like that, and get you in and get you out. Like, it was incredible to actually look at that and witness that, man. Like, a lot of people of color, man, we're just some amazing talent. And to see that in a poverty-stricken county and city, you know, based on what I saw, I just thought that was extremely dope. So on the average, me charging at that time $7 haircuts, not including tips, I'll probably walk away with anywhere between like 60 to maybe $100 because I was running between 8 to maybe 15 haircuts a day, and that's not including tips. So if I get tips, I will always take the tip money and I will leave it in the shop because I never look at tip money as profit. I just look at it as something that was considered miscellaneous.
right.
So time I did eventually went up on haircuts, from 7 to 10, 10, 12, 12, 15. And then you kind of have your cap, because sometimes us barbers within the industry, we have this rule, across the nation and county and city, we should all be charging the same. And I always, like my rent is not that much. And then this is that county that I'm in, and I have to be mindful in terms of what people are making on the average between
Right.
wage and salary. And in addition to that, how often do my clientele that I'm establishing are actually coming in terms of returning clients? If they're weekly, bi-weekly, strictly on weekends, and on top of that, certain holidays, back to school, when it slows down during the summertime, during the holidays. So I was very mindful of a lot of things to that nature. So my common denominator was always look for new clientele.
Right.
What I'm saying? And that new clientele, you can probably change the price differential a little bit. But for the most part, the more new clientele I had, I never worry about that in terms of going up on this price or that price. I only did it when it was necessary based on my demographics.
Okay. Okay. But if in the other businesses around, other barbershops in the area, they were charging more than you were, or were they charging less?
That's the thing. I never actually went and found out what other people was charging. That was just one local barber who was there since the 30s, 40s, and 50s, 60s, 70s. However long he was there, I just knew he never changed his price.
Oh, I see.
And yeah, that's just what it was. But you can go 15 minutes up the road to Auburn, Alabama, which Auburn University is, and your average haircut might have been like $10 or $15.
Gotcha.
Somebody, because you got to take in consideration if you're not of color, most people come in, might get a trim or go to a salon and get a haircut once a month. You know, we come in and like to be groomed more so weekly or bi-weekly.
Right.
So what my target was and how to go about doing that.
Okay. Okay.
Mm.
That's great. And so over the time you have the business going, and then you shifted a little. You decided that you wanted to be an author, and there may be some other things that you did in between, but then you decided, well, I'm going to write a book. So Why such a shift?
Well, I knew I always wanted to write a book, but to be honest with you, Keith, I never wanted to write an adult contemporary book. And reason why I said it because if I went major or independent route, whichever direction I would have went, um, once you take it to market, at some point it will eventually fade. And in the back of
Mm,
my mind, I always knew I wanted to make a change. And the best way to make a change, you have to affect the youth. So I needed to create something that can be inspiring, but not only inspiring, can give people a reason to want to come back, continue to read, and also pass it on to the next generation. And that's how I got into the industry. That was my
wow.
thought.
Okay. Because, and I know we didn't talk about the education system so much in Mississippi, but um, is that one of the reason why you wanted to focus on kids because of, maybe how kids were being taught in the city?
No, not at all. I actually got a great education.
Okay.
Um, it was only one high school in Meridian, still to this day. High school at that time was only 10th, 11th, and 12th, and you had
Okay.
your two, which was Kate Griffin, which I think, from understanding, they demolished that, and then those ninth grade students that now came over to the high school, and then you had Northwest, where I attended, and where your credits, initially starts. But they were very big on education there in Meridian, and it was twice within 4 years I got perfect attendance because I truly love school. I did Mets, so it was rain, shine, sleet, or snow, as we say, growing up in the South. I truly enjoy school, and 2 out of the 4 years I graduated with honors, except for my senior year. My grades slipped a little bit because I had more focus on sports and trying to get a scholarship
Yeah,
and a
and
lot
get
of
that
other.
scholarship. Yeah.
Yeah, but I still graduated within top 100 of my class. It was like 386 of us, and we had a large graduation class because, like I said before, it's only one high school there. But yeah, my education was great. I was taking French in 10th and 11th grade. French 1 and 2. I learned how to type properly. At that time, using a typewriter in 10th grade. Her name was Miss Barnes. That's how I learned how to type. Then my mother and grandmother used to type and do, pamphlets for the church. They used to do that fluently. So that's how I got into learning how to type. And then from that point, shifted over to a keyboard. And then from over that time, you morph into a laptop. So I remember a lot of those things that I learned at a very young age that kind of carried on to my adulthood. So in terms of writing the book, it wasn't because of the lack of education. I received great education because I also have a mother and grandparents who, man, they stress education. Like even
Hmm.
when school was out, my mother and my grandmother and my grandfather, they had reading assignments. It was vacation Bible school. It was always something dealing with education because I come from a major educational background on both sides of my family. So that makes sure you're not going to be a dummy walking around here at all. You're going to be knowledgeable, reading and writing and how to do cursive, which is now being tossed out of the school system.
Yeah. Right.
Correct punctuation and also grammar and just knowing how to conduct yourself. And I learned a lot from family surroundings as well as school. But the writing part, they came slightly after that. And man, I'm just never thought I'd be here on a platform with you. And as of right now, this has been, an amazing experience so far.
That's great. And so the set the scene. What are the books about? And what has and because you did answer the memoir thing, because I was wondering why didn't focus on adults, but what is it about, and what is really the feedback that you get, especially from young men or young adolescent boys of color?
Great question. So I'm gonna back it up a little bit. Um, First started writing the book. Wrote my first draft, which is called Follow Your Clippers, back in 2017.
Mm,
And I didn't know what I was really doing. So with that particular piece, I commissioned a gentleman by the name of Michael Fanning. He was a manager at a Smoothie King in my building downtown Atlanta at the time. And he was a hell of a writer. Didn't look at any of the stuff he did. and he was just very good at what he did. And he and I forged a relationship, and he sit down and we began to put some things together. And I did my first draft, which was Follow Your Clippers, about, a barber named Otis. And, there's a mother who coming in, who was a single parent, and she had a child who was very disruptive. And she really, when it comes to being in public in those, scenes, she really didn't know how to control him. So Otis, being, who he was, he just asked the mom to have a seat. And a lot of times where we as adults or barbers and other people, we have a tendency to want to calm a child down by turning around and give them sweets, candies, things of that nature. In this particular instance, we don't do that, because we do know, through not only psychology, but through anatomy, that it makes you hyper. So Otis
Right.
gave this kid a clipper, and he's looking at this clipper. Not only does he calm down, he's fascinated. So he asks him to hold it. And while he's holding it, he's conversing with the child. And in the midst of all that, he's able to cut his hair. So once everything was done, he will wave the mother over. And premises of the story has its ups and downs, good and bad days. And towards the end of the draft is this child ended up growing up being an adult. He remembered all the stories and education and stuff he learned from his mother and as well as his barber. And needless to say, he ended up opening his own shop, and the cycle starts over again. But that got submitted and it got rejected. So I was discovered by a lady by the name of Christina Morgan, and she was introduced to me, and she asked me to sit in the draft. And she said, "Look, that's cool, but if you're interested and you trust me, I can make you a better writer." So I took the opportunity, and I took the challenge with her, and we sat down an hour, maybe every week, even though I was on tour full time. And she would just ask me questions, and we opened up computers. She told me how to download Google Docs, and she would just ask me questions about things in my past that, as an adult, I don't think I will really remember. But it was just, she would ask certain questions, and next thing I know, I'm just there laughing with her, and I'm just writing and laughing and laughing and writing. Now we just kind of going back and forth, creating dialogue. And she showed me how to take trauma and things that happened in the past and make it funny, because I didn't see anything funny about
Wow.
that
Right. Okay.
at all. And she gave me structure. So when I tell people I can't take any credit for where I'm at, is people who believed in me, and I talk about that wholeheartedly. And now, like I said before, this is where I'm at with the brand. So to answer your question, JD the Kid Barber series is loosely based off my life growing up in Mississippi. So it's a 3-book series. And for your readers and your audience, book 1 is called JD and a Great Barber Battle. The cool thing is we made history, guys, because now this is the first children's book series that actually mentions anything about a barber battle. Because the first barber battle was actually created in 1999 back in Atlanta, Georgia, at the Brotha Brothers Hair Show. That was the very first barber battle ever done. That's the history. So I now took that, submitted everything to my attorney. We did the necessary research. Not only did we put it as the title of the first book, but we also have the copyright to that. So it's loosely based off my life, and we set the scene based on things I was coming up through the 3rd grade. It was the Sunday night prior to me actually going to school the first day. And like I said before, you got to read the book, guys. This little, I'm saying, series starts. But I'm going to morph into book 2, which was called JD and the Family Business. So we sat down, because when I first got my deal, I only submitted 1 manuscript. So my literary agency submitted it to 10 companies. 4 came back with offers within 10 days.
Wow.
Off manuscript. And we settled with Random House. Reason being is because I was a fan of their engine and how broad of a reputation that they had. And that was important to me. And they said, "We love the series, but we like to do something more. We think this can be really good to be into a series versus just a 1 book." And I'm like, well, I put my heart and soul into 1 book, like most people do with so forth. I don't know if I have anything else to come out of here. Nothing imaginary comes out. This is my life. So I sat down with my team, and got back with Christina, and I asked her what she thinks. And she said, "If you really like Random House, I will go with Random House as well. It's a series, anything can come out of it." Now, mind you, Keith, I had no expectations. So we came back. They flew me up to New York State. I met with them in Manhattan. You know, we signed, sealed, did the deal. And then from that point, we started pushing forward. So in book two, dealing with the family business, now we morphed into me dealing with my sister, Vanessa, who's a YouTube sensation. But not only that, once I morph out of my bedroom, she becomes a cosmetologist or a hairstylist. Now, in real life, my sister followed my path and she became a professional cosmetologist in real life. Now she's a celebrity chef.
Oh,
So,
wow. Okay.
so when I'm saying these are true events, these are definitely true events, Keith. So, and needless to say, it's a funny chapter series. A lot of good, wholesome, hearty, family-oriented stuff. I talk a lot about community, neighborhood versus the hood. And I also mentioned where it takes a village to raise a child. Not only did I have the church raising us, the neighborhood raising us, we also have my grandparents, a sister, my mother also raising us. It was a camaraderie of people looking after you, your well-being, and making sure you was good. But to get into book three, it's called JD and the Hair Show Showdown. So, you know, JD, he goes from being locally known to now having a YouTube and social media presence. Now, from that point, he's being sought after. Now he'll be able to take his talents and actually showcase that on the main stage within the glam industry, as we per se, with the hair expos. Now he began to take his talents there, and you know he has this support, you know, and it's overwhelming, and he don't know he can perform something from a local level around his peers to a bunch of complete strangers. But needless to say, you know, he prevailed to a certain extent. I can't tell the book. I hope you guys get the opportunity to read it and enjoy it, and you know, other good things continue to happen.
Wow. That's fascinating. And so what has actually been the response from young people when they actually pick up the book and start to read it? What have they thought about it?
Incredible. Like I said before, growing up the way I did, I can't speak for anybody else. You don't have any expectations. You know, you told to have faith, you have your support, you work hard, and over time, you know, things will come through fruition. You know, but the response was just completely overwhelming. We launched February of 2021, Black History Month, and they pushed it from 2020 during COVID year,
Mm.
which I'm very, because I'm like, oh, a whole year. I was kind of felt bad about the situation, but I trust my team and they have my best interests at heart. And trusting my team when we launched all three books within one calendar year. Because technically, whenever you do a series, whenever you have people interested, you want to drop a book every 90 days.
Oh,
So in our
okay.
case, in February, then we dropped the second one within July, August, then we dropped the next one in October, which was still within an 8 or 10 month, no, 9 month span. So the response was overwhelming. We was getting emails and text messages and DMs, and we created a brand for JD the Kid Barber IG and Twitter page. Then we set up the website, and from that point, what I love about signing with Penguin Random House, their engine alone began to populate through social media, through Google. In addition to that, it had us on shelves. I'm on shelves in Walmart. I'm on shelves in Target, Barnes and Noble, Books a Million. We have 5-star ratings all over Amazon and all of the other local bookstores, especially the mom and pop bookstores, the melanated bookstores, the local libraries. People began to pick up this book, and it was just flooding. And book one just took off like a rocket. And man, it was just overwhelming, and I was just getting so much response because Keith, everybody always telling me it's so relatable because at some point in their life somebody got a bad haircut.
Yeah, right.
Uncle, father, their dad, their mom, somebody got a bad haircut, and
Yeah.
basically doing
Absolutely.
it when this book dropped. Everybody was trying to cut hair at home because they couldn't get to the salons and barbershops. Everybody got bad hair.
Oh
So
man.
yes, the response was it was overwhelming. Like I said, I have no expectations because you be disappointed so much, you have no expectations. But it's been, not has been, it's still great, Keith. It is, man, it's great. It's only two things I wanted out of this deal when Christina asked me. I said, number one, I like to strive to be a New York Times bestseller. And the second thing I just want to make my mother proud. Because it's like I'm throwing her up under the bus per se, but I'm
Okay.
not, because I'm telling my truth, because she did give me a bad haircut.
It was the truth, right? Right.
That's true.
It was the truth. Uh, but I mean, look, her I think knowing that her name will be immortalized, I'm sure she'll be all right. I'm sure she'll be
I
okay.
speak for my mother, man. She's in her 70s doing her thing, retired, love her to death, but absolutely. But yeah, I hope so.
Yeah. And then I've read that you are, you even going to even to the next level in producing a TV series called Junior Master Barber. So I thought that was quite interesting because all the different reality shows that are out there. But
Correct.
what is the actual show about? I mean, I know it's not in production yet, but if you can give me a kind of a brief synopsis.
Yeah, so it's we've submitted everything to Writers Guild, so it's protected. So I have the ability to talk about it loosely. So I'm gonna put you in the mind of this TV show on Fox with Gordon Ramsay. Are you familiar with Master Chef Junior?
Oh yes, yes, I am.
Okay, so bunch
I
of
never watched
amazing.
it, but I know because I know he can be mean. I ain't trying to say I don't want to see kids crying.
That part. So I'm not going to be mean. I won't even be in the show. I'm just going to EP behind the curtains.
Okay.
So, but technically, I somewhat enjoyed that series. So I wanted to use kids between the ages of 9 and 15 and build a series around kids of the ages of 9 and 15. Because in today's time, you can go to YouTube and type in young barbers or young hairstylists, braiders, and you'll find a plethora of kids of all ethnicity, all race, all creed, under the age of 15, doing work and cutting hair better than what I was doing. I didn't get good until I was in my 20s and 30s.
Oh,
With all the
really?
tools,
Yeah, that's surprising. Okay.
I was very good in terms of the basics and what my peers wanted, but I got better being around other good barbers from different regions and other parts of the country. So, and that's how I began to take my craft to the whole new level. But I built Junior Master Barber, constructed it around that. So, and I'm excited about it. So now kids have the opportunity to come and compete for cash and prizes. So technically, what they'll be competing for, you know, it's kind of like the winner takes all, but the person who actually wins the competition, they will be sponsored by a major clipper company for a complete whole year. They get they'll win cash and prizes up to maybe like $8,000 to $10,000 in cash and prizes. But the overall grand prize is him or her, whoever wins the competition, will receive a full-fledged scholarship to a beauty school once they graduate high school. So your education, once you win that competition, is now paid for by us.
That's great. That's great because a lot of times, I mean, some of the things that hold us back from excelling, passion, is kind of the bootstrapping that we're trying to do. So the fact that you're able to exponentially springboard someone's career, I think is fantastic. And I can't wait to see it because, I mean, I have this hat on, one, because like you, I don't have any hair. So, and it is quite cold. And so he's like, hey, I'm not down south where it was like I wouldn't have to wear it. I'm up here on the East Coast. And so just to
So what
see,
right now, it's a little
yeah,
warm.
yeah, right. So to see, you just young people, I think that's a lot of that is missing nowadays, giving young people an opportunity to take their gifts and just get the foundation behind it because they they're talented, but if they can have the education behind it as well, it just makes it even more impactful for their lives. And so I'm really glad to hear that.
I definitely agree with you on that. It's my vision when it comes to that. I never really looked at in terms of creating an opportunity for these young talented children. I tell people they create value and they create their own opportunity. Technically, what it is, I see what it is they've created, and I basically want to come in and partner with them and just showcase it. You know what I'm saying? Because just like somebody did for me, I've created value for myself, and people they're very optimistic and they can look at you as an opportunity, and how they can take advantage of you. They want to partner with you. In my case, they put the work in at an early age. They have great super adult vision who taught them well within certain crafts. And with that being said, I'd just like to come in, take their skill set with the platform we built, and let's come in and create a partnership. And then from that point, let's show the world, who is Junior Master Barber and who's actually a part of, Junior Master Barber. And that would be the young talent that's out here.
That's great. Great. Well, one thing that's fantastic is that it is the holiday season, and folks need to buy Christmas gifts, and what better way, especially for our young people, to get them a book to read. So how would a person go about? What's the best way to get your book?
Man, pick up a phone.
Okay.
Those are nowadays. But no, all jokes set aside, it's several ways. It's just pretty much whatever most good for those. For those who actually shop Amazon, you can just clearly go to Amazon, pull my name, J Dillard, the letter J, last name Dillard, or JD the Kid Barber series, and all three books will populate, one up under the other, and you have the ability to read the bio that was actually redone by my amazing publicist Nicole, and you'll be able to, see all the reviews, and in addition to that, be able to purchase. We do have softback as well as hardcover, but the cool thing is, which I would like to, let your audience know as well, we just had the Spanish edition come out on October 15th of this year, and we've done so far 36,000 copies since October 15th in the Spanish edition.
Oh,
So
nice.
that's extremely well. For those who's an avid shopper at your major chain stores, you can basically go into like a Target and or a Walmart, and go into the book department, look for anything between the ages of 6 and 8, or anything really that says young readers. You should be able to find all three, if not book one. But for the most part, you can go to Random Penguin House, or you can go to the website at JD the Kid Barber, all one word, lowercase.com. But it's several ways to find it. And the reason why I just tell people to kind of Google, only because it doesn't restrict you to one major platform or independent platform. It allows you to, wherever you at locally or internationally, and you have a plethora of different places that will carry the book. Some for the mom and pop libraries and bookstores, including the major chain stores. So I'm very grateful for both of those. And you can pretty much go anywhere. And if they don't have it, it's a simple phone call. Say, hey, I'm looking for this particular book, and they'll be more than happy just to order it for you.
Okay. Yeah, and I'll put a link in the comments as well. So for anyone that's going to listen to the show, they'll have the opportunity to get that. So one before we go, I always like to end my show with a question, because we as brothers a lot are always on our grind, and doing what we love, not only just for ourselves, for our families, but we don't always take a step back and think about our our quiet, doing a quiet time, think about stuff. You may be one of those, and I'm gathering you probably are, but I really would like to know, as we close out 2022, how are you feeling, as a Black man right now?
Are we referring stateside, or are we just referring to just as a person of
Just,
color, period?
just you, yeah, just you, person of color, period. Just I don't want to say in America, but just how are you feeling?
I feel great, and not because of the position that I'm in, but because I think our voice is getting bigger over time. I think we'll see a lot of people waking up. It's just people really taking the time, taking a step back, and actually doing some research, and taking time just to really listen to each other, see the importance of, what we bring to the table. Um, Not only just things we actually bring into the table, but how important we are, to our loved ones, our family, having that structure and making sure we have a Black man in our household, especially moving forward. If you're a parent looking to create a family, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm glad you asked that question. That's a very powerful question, because one thing I did do when having my meeting and getting my deal, or being offered my deal, was I was in a group, I was in this setting with just all women, and I was the only brother there, the only male there. And I asked them to their eyes, I said, if I were to take this offer, or is it because of, you know, we're now in a situation where Black Lives Matter or this Me Too movement, or you're looking for diversity, or it's the fact that you really truly believe in a project? Because what was so powerful to me is I truly wanted other people to see themselves like a young JD on the cover of a book. I wanted them to
Mm.
be able to vision themselves, and they can, reach out and grab at something like that and say, "Hey, mom, I see this. This is super cool," and they know this can happen for them either then, now, or within their near future. And that was very important to me. And I can honestly say, Keith, man, they assured me that it was none of those, that they wholeheartedly agreed with me. We put together a plan. And like I said before, to fast forward to now, December 2022, I am on your platform speaking about a person of color on a front cover of a book worldwide.
Fantastic. So I would just wanted to give like a shout out. My brother Roy Schuler, who was a guest last in the last show, ordered all three books. So it's
Oh, man.
it's definitely have your story today has resonated with folks out there, and I look forward to all the blessings and everything that's going to come your way.
Thank you so much for having me, Keith. I can honestly say, for your audience, your brother, and including yourself, you know me personally now. Get my information from my publicist, Nicole, and I like to shout out who brought the character to life is my illustrious illustrator, King S. Roberts. He's a brother of color from the South, now lives in New York, and he's an illustrator for the New Yorker. And
Oh, okay.
I work. And now he travels with me when we go to elementary schools and we do speaking engagements. And he too had a bad hair growing up. His mom, he had all this beautiful hair, and she felt he wouldn't take care of it. And she chopped it all off. Now he has dreads down his neck. So, but I mentioned this amazing brother who created this character, which is now known around the world. And he read the manuscript, and it was relatable. And man, he took the boots by straps, and he just created these amazing characters, based off my vision, and just brought everything to fruition. So I had to make sure that I mentioned this amazing brother. And yeah, man, collectively, we just out here hitting the road doing our thing. But thank you so much, man. And man, kudos to you, man. You told me some things prior to that's extremely inspiring. I'm not just telling you that but I too was homeless not once but twice in my life in my 20s and 30s, and
Mm.
sometimes it's good to have a mentor, or people who's not of relevance or not also your relatives, to care and go out your own comfort zone and to leave your own family and friends to care for a complete stranger. So what you're doing, I applaud you for that. And I want to say it on your platform, and I want to give you your flowers while we're here. And that's amazing, bro. Keep
Thank
pushing
you.
up.
Well, we'll definitely have to connect because we'll have to get the books definitely for our bookcase and stuff like that. But yeah, we'll definitely connect, and so we can hey, whenever you're in New York, stop in and see what it's all about.
Absolutely. Look forward to it.
Well, Jay Dillard, thank you, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks for having me. Have a good night, guys. Take
Okay,
care.
now. Well, there you go. I hope you listen tonight, and as you close out to the new year, we as brothers, or and as people of color, um, and really for the most part, everybody in general, if you have a bad incident in your life, you can turn that into triumph, and hey, who knows, maybe even profit. So as we close out, just thank you for being here, and looking forward to even if this is the last show. I'm not sure if we're going to have another show before 2022 ends, but look forward to great things in 2023. I'm getting my footing as far as navigating shows and career and life. But the fact that you guys are here cheering us on and being here is truly fantastic. So talk to you soon.